Hello, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Haley Brandt. Let's get right into it. The Wunderkammer. Known in English as cabinets of curiosities, the Wunderkammer were essentially densely packed collections of objects from various cultures and ecosystems. This was the foundation of modern-day museums, a space to eroticize the exotic, a space in which the value of a foreign object is its foreignness itself. These objects would then go on to fill the shelves of thousands of our archives. There both deserves to be and has been redressed for this issue. The history of a lack of belonging in museum and archive spaces for people of color is directly confronted by archives and archive-based groups through inclusivity efforts and recontextualization. I'd like to speak today about why and how these programs struggle to succeed as a result of the history of museum and archival institutions as a whole, and to evaluate the extent to which these programs are successful and what changes might be made to ensure greater success in the future. My research is America-centric in nature, solely out of necessity, given that minority groups vary by country and by continent. Groups that are marginalized in smaller number in the United States of America and Europe are not marginalized in fewer in places such as Asia or Africa. Archives have undoubtedly gone through large transformations from their introduction into the world as the keepers of what decorated Wunderkammer to the archives of the present. In the past, archives were white-serving institutions. They found objects created by white people or Europeans to have more value, more taste, more purpose. The artifacts created by people of color were often stolen and their creators disrespected. When given a place in galleries, exhibits, or archives, the objects were often simultaneously scorned. For example, an object might be awe-inspiring for its inherent exotic nature and yet be referred to as primitive or barbaric in the same breath. Misinformation due to racial stereotyping was a constant theme even as archives strove to improve. The only place people of color had in archive spaces was a place for their cultural artifacts to be disconnected from its people and to be gawked at. That is, people of color themselves had no place in archive spaces at all. The archives of today have made attempts to rectify this issue. Creating spaces and special collections that invite and remember people of color is not only important as a form of reparations for their past and continued mistreatment, but an excellent way to reaffirm and remember the cultural identity that these unique individuals have in a place in which their culture may be difficult to find and connect with otherwise. The existence of these spaces should provide an opportunity for people of color to feel seen and reflected. Drawing them into archive spaces, a field in which people of color have historically been excluded from, is another key benefit. This means both getting people of color into archives as guests and able to utilize these resources for their own education, but also getting them into jobs and into key positions in decision-making and creation processes. People of color should be able to see themselves reflected in an archive because they, themselves, took part in making it happen. There are three key places in which archives can improve. The first is in the area of talking versus doing. Most archives have inclusivity statements, especially in the US, but while these statements can be found in several places on their websites and are highlighted frequently by staff, these are merely examples of talking. Archives who do this must take the initiative and resources to act on their commitment to inclusivity by reflecting it in their collections and in their opportunities. To be inclusive is to be equitable. The second way in which archives can improve is through the creation of individualized efforts for including specific groups. A harmful habit of many archives is the belief that people of color are one unit. They are very far from a cohesive whole, even if sometimes united under a shared sense of understanding oppression. Rather, there are hundreds or even thousands of cultures that make up the umbrella of people of color. Though creating an individualized effort for every single one of these cultures is not practical, recognizing their differences and making more than one effort will help. The third, perhaps most important method the archive should employ to improve is to allow for more representation in decision-making processes. Though archive professionals are well trained and qualified in what they do, including the unique perspective of an individual who better understands how harmful decontextualized artifacts of cultural significance will result in restructuring of language and organization that is more effectively respectful. In these ways, archives both in America and worldwide can begin to make great strides towards recovering from their historical mistakes and have a better means of measuring their success in doing so. To this end, I especially want to advocate one thing: to truly survey our past and revitalize our archival records. Actual surveys should be conducted. POC satisfaction should be measured. Only then can we say our archives have undergone their own renaissance. Thank you.